Hey fam, it's Damon Richardson here, and I just want to take a couple of minutes to address an issue that I've seen come up over the last couple of weeks surrounding a recent event that is questioning the use of the word heretic or heresy. And the way that it sounds is that, well, hey, even Jesus was considered a heretic, or even Dr. Martin Luther King was considered a heretic. And the pushback is essentially saying, hey, listen, being called a heretic doesn't necessarily mean something bad, because, I mean, look, even these very good people were called heretics. And they attempt to say that, well, heretics are really people that are just being essentially slandered because they're really trying to speak truth to power and challenge the establishment, so forth and so on. And since that's what Jesus was doing and Dr. King was doing, well, then persons who are called heretics are really just in good company. But I want to address that as that fallacy, because the first and most obvious issue with thinking this way and arguing this way is that just because a person is actually considered to be a heretic doesn't mean that they actually are. Being called a heretic could be a matter of somebody slandering, but it could also be a matter of somebody actually deviating from universal truths, right? A person that's deviated so far from it that they have just gone to the point of denying that truth, undermining that truth even, right? So just because you're being considered something doesn't make you actually that thing. Just a couple of years ago, there were people doing videos about me saying I am a false teacher and even a racist. I mean, imagine that, me, a false teacher or a racist. So they have considered me as such. But am I actually, is the question. And the answer to that is a resounding no. I am neither a false teacher nor a racist. And so just because I am considered to be doesn't mean that I actually am. So that's the first problem with that kind of argument. The second problem with that argument is that the very argument itself is false. There is no place in the New Testament where Jesus was ever considered to be a heretic. In fact, much of Jesus's teaching and even the Pharisees' teaching agreed around a lot of points. Jesus' main issue with them was their hypocrisy, not their orthodoxy. In fact, he affirmed their orthodoxy when he told his own disciples in Matthew 25, hey, they have smika, they have the seat or the authority of Moses. They've been ordained. The unbroken chain in Jewish tradition of authority has been passed to them. They are the ordained Torah teachers. They're the official guys. And he says, listen to them. That's what Jesus told his own disciples. He said, just don't do what they do. So he really objected more to their orthopraxy, not their orthodoxy, right? And there are no issues that you find with them considering Jesus to be a heretic, teaching things that were far-fetched and outlandish and this, that, or the other. They may have disagreed, but that was the nature of Judaism at that time anyways, is that Jews debated with each other all day, every day, right? So, but they didn't, there was a lot of homogeneity there in terms of what they did agree on. So there really is no place. Now, there are places where Jesus was accused of being a blasphemer. John chapter 10, you being a man, make yourself out to be God. And so Jesus then makes an allusion to Psalms 82 and 6. And he says, hey, that can't be true, because even Yahweh calls men gods, right? So he noticed they accused him of being a blasphemer, which means to slander. And he pushed back and showed how that is incorrect. So just because he was considered a blasphemer, Jesus demonstrated that he actually wasn't. So their accusation is what was false. And then, of course, we have Mark chapter 14 surrounding Jesus's arrest. He's in custody of the Sanhedrin, and they're looking for reasons, testimony from various people. And Mark says twice that they can't agree on anything. And somebody says, well, we even heard him saying that he's going to destroy the temple and then rebuild it in 3 days. And they wanted to use that, but then Mark says again, they couldn't get the story straight. They couldn't agree on that. So the chief priest turns to Jesus and says, hey, just tell us plainly, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One, or not? And Jesus says, I am. And he says, oh, there you go. There you have it. You've heard him with your own ears, blasphemy. But the reality is just because he accused him of blasphemy doesn't mean that he did. Did Jesus blaspheme there? The answer again is no. Jesus was essentially saying that he is the fulfillment of who Daniel prophesied would come, the Son of Man. And that's why he said, I am. And shortly after this, you'll see the Son of Man coming on a cloud. This is apocalyptic language. What is Jesus really saying? He's saying, I'm essentially the future king of Israel, the one that was promised to sit on David's throne, the Davidic king that was prophesied. I'm him. That's not blasphemy. That's a claim. Now, his claim was either true or false, but it doesn't make it blasphemy, right? In Jesus's case, it was absolutely true. So again, being considered something and actually being it are two different things. There were ways of knowing and determining whether a person was a false teacher and a heretic in the New Testament church, and that is if they deviated and went completely away from what the apostles, who were the custodians of the gospel, it was directly given to them by Jesus to establish the church. Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, the church was built upon the foundation of apostles and prophets, Jesus himself being the chief cornerstone. The Apostle John, in one of his 3 letters, says, here's how you'll know the spirit of truth from the spirit of error. If anyone deviates from our teaching, if they deny it, that is the spirit of error. Notice Paul, first chapter of Galatians, he says, hey, if even me or an angel, angelos, a messenger, could be human, could be a spirit being, doesn't matter. If they teach anything other than that which we have proclaimed, this person is worthy of condemnation by God. Let that person be accursed, right? So again, the determination and the standard was what the apostles taught. And there were persons who were considered heretics. Philetus, Hymenaeus, Alexander the coppersmith. Why were they heretics? Because they were really denying the resurrection of Jesus. They were even teaching that it had already occurred in a non-physical way as prophesied and taught. And this was a preteristic heresy, something that they said had passed. Well, why is it heresy? Well, if it had already occurred, where's the final judgment on not only believers and their works, but on unbelievers and their sin? Where's glorification? Right? Where's the establishment of God's kingdom on earth? Where's the new heavens and the new earth? Where any of those things that are the direct result of the second coming of Jesus, and therefore the resurrection of the righteous and the wicked, right? So as Paul said, this heresy was corrosive to people's faith. It was spreading like gangrene. And he said that it was shipwrecking people's faith. And the church was warned, don't have any fellowship with these guys. Don't let them teach. Don't listen to them. These men have deserted the faith. They're teaching heresy. And so that's universal, folks. That not only applied for them, but it applies for all people in all places at all times. And regardless of how postmodern this society is, that still applies today. If anybody teaches anything other than the gospel, and anything that is essential to the Christian faith, having been a Christian, having denied those things, and then turn right around and start teaching that these things are false and that these things are not true, such a person is a heretic. Arius had been a presbyter in Alexandria. That is, he had fellowship. He was known to be a believer. But at another time, he started teaching some gross heresy that there was a time that Jesus did not exist. There was a time when he was not, that he became the first of God the Father's creation. That was abject heresy. There is not a single day on the calendar that celebrates Arius. He was a heretic and has gone down in infamy as such. All right. Be blessed. Hope that was helpful. God bless you again. Thank you.